Alright, Charlie and Bennett here. Today we're going to be talking about the new media, what it means to have news in Web 2.0.
Now, in the past, things were very iconic. The JFK assassination, the Hindenburg crash, 9/11, all of these things were remembered on the day they happened. So, everyone remembers exactly where they were when they heard about the news for 9/11 and the steps they took to learn more about 9/11. However, nowadays, things have become emotional peaks and then quickly fall off as soon as you finish with the story.
In the past, everyone shared an experience. So, for example, when John F. Kennedy was shot, the whole nation saw his funeral and his murderer being shot on newsreels or on the news around the country. When you had the moon landing in 1969, that was broadcast to millions of homes worldwide, and the images of Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walking on the moon and planting the flag became ingrained in our public memory. And what really happened as we start to see the rise of digital media and Web 2.0 and social media is that the web became more decentralized, and you had more people talking about the news with different viewpoints, and not all of them had the right credentials.
So, also in the past, the media was dictated by your credentials. So if you had an interview with someone, it was because you were intelligent or because you knew what you were talking about, at least most of the time. However, nowadays, it becomes about your popularity, and the entirety of the media and news is dictated by how many followers you have on a certain social media. This can be good and bad. It's mostly bad because it means that the opinions of the people who are being spotlighted often are not supported by facts, and that's not very good. But it can be good because it means that people who aren't often seen can also share their viewpoints.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everyone has a megaphone on the internet, and the size of your megaphone depends on how many followers or how many likes you get. So, for example, if there's someone with a journalism degree who decides to interview a famous presidential candidate or someone who just made the news recently, they might not have as much say on the internet as, say, a celebrity like Justin Bieber or Kanye West with 23 million followers on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. And also you have the rise of web forums and chats where users who like to rant about their beliefs can just go on there and spout to anyone who shares the same viewpoint.
Part of the thing that is very impactful about the new web is that there's a very sudden briefness in a story. So examples like Sandy Hook, Tony Robinson, Michael Brown, and Caitlyn Jenner all seem to have an impact, whether that be good or bad. And people say, oh, that's very important because of these reasons, and then suddenly falls off because it's not trending anymore. And what's trending seems to be how emotions are dictated. Well, in the past, there was one source of unbiased, or at least mostly unbiased news, and that meant that news would continue for longer.
Yeah, and objectivity is always impossible in the media because you're never actually getting the entire picture, no matter how objective your source is. But in the past, news media was intended to bring people together and to inform the public. Even though it was for profit, it still had to appeal to a broad audience. Now, of course, you have insider sites and forums and web services that cater to a small niche of people. For example, Vice News is a popular thing amongst young people, and there's forums where white supremacists or neo-Nazis or anyone really can go on and spout their ideas. Alright, so as we're talking about this decentralization and the fact that everyone has a megaphone, it brings us to the gay marriage decision that was recently passed by the Supreme Court.
Snapchat has a function called Snapchat Live, which is where you can have photos from 24 hours that show up about anything.
And
videos. And in this case, it's gay marriage, which is great because it means that everyone from around the country, either at the Supreme Court or just anywhere, can take videos or photos from either their pride or just from the Supreme Court waiting for the decision. And
everyone can celebrate, which is really great. But it also leads to that loss of an iconic moment For example, there's no real well-known photograph or video clip, and it wasn't really something that the entire nation shared on TV. For example, Snapchat is used almost exclusively by young people. There's really not that many older users of it. So you also have this thing where younger users are becoming more savvy. Well, the media shifts towards a more social platform where it's more young people who are going to be staying caught up on stuff.
That too.
So Web 3.0 is already on the horizon with stuff like Oculus Rift and the Sphere videos from GoPro. So basically what this means is that we're already going towards the next generation. Web 2.0 was coined in 2006, and it's 2015, 10 years later, and we already have new forms of media. So no one knows really where this is going to take us.
And with the introduction of Web 3.0, it's almost positive that there's going to be more decentralization and more stories that are different. Oh, God. With the introduction of Web 3.0, it's almost positive that there's going to be more decentralization. And this just means that there needs to be more liberalization when reading your stories. Meaning you have to read stuff with a grain of salt, and you have to understand that not everything is going to be supported by facts. Most of it is going to be opinionated. And personally, I like the idea of Web 2.0 and Web 3.0, but I don't think that it can be implemented in a very correct way that means that the opinions people are saying are being supported by their facts.
Okay, but I also think that with this new decentralization of media and the fact that everyone has their own viewpoints and they have their own megaphone, I think that we can really find some good facts and good ideas within the slew of a lot of garbage on the internet. For example, we might find a statistic or a graph or something, or a particular viewpoint on a topic that we might have never been able to find on CNN or NBC or one of the traditional media sources like television or the newspaper or the radio. And it also gives organizations a voice. So like the Black Lives Matter movement, like climate change and feminism and
Gay
marriage. All these organizations and causes can now have this voice that they wouldn't have traditionally, because social media costs relatively little to blow your ideas out there. Sometimes it's just completely free, depending on how many viewers you want to reach. And it's a great way for nonprofits and other people to really be able to broadcast their voice. I'm excited about what Web 2.0 is going to bring, and even Web 3.0, because I think we're really going to get a lot of viewpoints and facts from people who wouldn't really necessarily have a say in normal media. I think it's personally going to bring a lot of good viewpoints, and we're going to be able to hear from people that we haven't heard about.
And I think that it's great an idea, but it's not very well implemented. Just like communism.
Just like communism.